Hello again. Thank you to our panelists for such an insightful session. Keeping up with the momentum of the day, let's move towards our keynote, Revolutionizing Brain Health, Brainwave Entrainment Through Light, Sound, and Vibration by Dr. Patrick K. Porter, PhD. He is an esteemed recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Interdisciplinary Association of Functional Neurosciences and Rehabilitation. And with over 3 decades of groundbreaking work, Dr. Porter has revolutionized brainwave entrainment technology. Please give it up for Dr. Porter as he embarks to share with us tips on unlocking your brain's full potential with the help of brainwave entrainment. Oh, just a moment. He needs his microphone. Now would be a good time for my stand-up. Huh? Sounds good. Now would be a good time to use the bathroom, get some water, some coffee, snacks, juice. Awesome. Hello, Dr. Porter. Welcome. How you doing? All right, once again, give it up for Dr. Porter, everyone.
Ever heard of something called the BrainTap? Has anybody ever heard of that out there? Okay, a few of you have, okay. Usually when I go to a conference, 90% of the people have it in their clinics, so it's a very unusual group, but I'm looking around, I don't see a lot of our doctors here. We have 4,000 clinics using this. Just to give you a little background as I bring up my slide presentation, my dad was a seminar leader. I grew up doing something called the Silva method. My dad was a chronic alcoholic. He was very gifted. Things could be going really well, and he'd find himself, laying on the floor drunk. And so one day the church members came over and they said, Michael, we're going to teach you something. We're going to teach you how to relax. That was in 1974. That was the last time he drank. He learned how to relax, and he realized the reason he was drinking was not to get drunk. The reason he was drinking was to get normal. And that's where most people, so my background, I wrote the programs for DUIs for the state of Arizona for years and worked with suicidal teens. And then I started a franchise that was called Positive Changes. Because I believe inherently in every individual is the solution to their problem, because in this universe, you can't have a problem without a solution, and you can't have a solution without problems. So we have to pick out the best solution that has the minimal amount of problems to it. I'm always looking for something, as they bring up my slide deck, I don't know, maybe they've lost it. If so, I'll just keep talking. The only way you can stop me is not mic me. So, we'll keep it going. But in the process, what we're doing here, from the years back in 1970s when my dad started leading seminars, because what he did was there were 9 of us in our family. None of us have a drinking problem or a drug problem. We all went from being troublemaker kids to being honor roll students. And people would always say, how can you keep 9 kids in line like that? Well, we meditated every night together. And we meditated not just on our values, but on the values of our family. So I think it's even more important than eating together. If you've seen the studies that show that. So in the process, everything I'm going to teach you today or show you has been clinically proven. Right now, as we're speaking, there's 9 continents, or 9 countries, that are doing research on our products. We're revolutionizing the way we learn and teach people. I'm actually the voice of telemedicine for ketamine, for the use talking about it. They send me out on a laptop. I explain how to use ketamine, and I have sessions they listen to with the BrainTap to integrate the process that just happened. Something called neuroplasticity. So as we go through it, I'm not going to ask you to believe a darn thing that I'm saying, because belief is for Sunday morning. This is all science I'm going to talk about. It's going to blow some of your minds, because if you haven't kept up with what's new, I believe our mental health problem isn't a mental health problem at all. I think it's a physiological problem. People sitting on their butts too much, and our physiology direct feeds into our psychology and vice versa. So if you fix one without the other, just like I like to tell people, you can't have the pill without the skill. A lot of people are getting the pill, but no skill. So what that means is we have a bunch of people dependent upon pills. I believe that every person, if we can empower every person, just so you understand my background, my mission is to better 1 billion brains. Because I know if we better 1 billion brains, it'll be like my dad did in 1974. He's literally helped millions of people. I have 120 countries using BrainTap right now. We help people every day, 4,000 clinics, 2 million people every week. We need more people because we need something when they're not seeing you in your clinics. They need to be doing something at home. This is something we need to do every day. So as we talk about it, what I did is I look back at ancient traditions. You know, when you think about the biggest fear in the world today, it's the fear of losing our memories. It's not the fear of public speaking anymore. It used to be, you know, the guy that was in the casket wasn't as stressed as the guy giving the talk about his life, right? The eulogy was that was the stress. Now it's the fear of losing our memories. Well, I don't know about you, but I've never met an ancient culture yet that said, you know, we keep the wisdom of the tribe with the youngsters. You ever heard that? They keep them with the elders. So that must mean that something's going on with our lifestyle, our food. So when I'm talking here, I believe that what most of the solutions we need are free. We just don't take advantage of them. It's like Dr. Sunshine. Every cell of your body, by the time I'm done, hopefully I'm going to encourage you not only to go visit our booth out there, but also to realize that you are a light being. It is not a metaphysical concept. I'm going to prove to you that you are made of and process light. Everyone in this room right now is transmitting 810 nanometer light, infrared light. Anybody ever heard of Tom Brady? Quarterback, you know, we're partners with TB12. My science officer made his clothing. He made clothing for Tom Brady. Now, Tom Brady doesn't tell you this because he's Tom Brady. He just says, hey, I'm 44 years old. I'm the world's greatest quarterback. Buy my clothes. But what we did was Dr. Francisco Cedral took materials, put it into the clothing that reflect back your own light. You all have a light. Your patients all have a light. Your clients all have a light. They can measure it now. During COVID, they did an experiment. Those people in fear had 120% less light being transmitted from their body when they were in fear, anxiety, depression. The number one thing we need to do is get their body back lit, not with a drug. I mean, if they need a pharmaceutical drug, I'm talking about, you know, things that are not on the counter. You know, they're getting them from their family and friends. So Dr. Sunshine's number one. Every cell of your body is being tuned to the light of the sun. Just an example, if you don't get to sleep before 10 o'clock at night, you don't make as much melatonin. In fact, every hour before 12 is worth 2 hours after. Now, why does your cells do that? Because they're tuned to the light of the sun. Our sun tells our body what to do. Every day at 2 o'clock when your temperature drops and the queen says, let's have tea time, that happens everywhere in the world, by the way. Your temperature drops 2 degrees at 2 o'clock because we're tuned to the Serengeti. What do they do in the Serengeti at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? They're not running around chasing zebras. They're all taking naps. What do? We go get chocolate, tea, and coffee. We need to stimulate our body by what it is. The world's greatest pharmacy is not in the corner. The world's greatest pharmacy is between your ears. 30,000 different neurochemicals can be released with a simple thought. What thought are you thinking? What thought is your patient thinking? Do they have optimized thinking or do they have negative thinking? If you look at life as a series of threats, I can guarantee you your immune system is going to shut down, your amygdala is going to be hijacked, and you're going to be in a state of terror most of the time. All you have to do if you're feeling too good, I have a solution for you. Turn on the news. You're going to be pissed off, fear-based. You won't be able to do anything. So we have to teach our patients and clients what to do. When I was in trouble when I was a kid, my dad had me read As a Man Thinketh. I had to read that book, get up and bullshit to him that I was going to actually do the things that were in that book. Now, when you do that every day during the summer, pretty soon you start doing it. Spaced repetition, right? That's what happens. So people have been doing these things all the time to get out their nervous system to shift. Your nervous system, your physiology is your nervous system. Everybody stand up for me. Put your pens down. Stand up for a minute. I was brought up Catholic, so I have a deal with the Pope. I have to have you stand and sit, but we're not going to kneel today. Okay? While you're standing, balance on one foot and do a circle with the other. While you're doing that circle, what I want you to do is write your name in the air. So you're doing the circle and you're writing your name. And you hear that little bit of laughter, that's good. Go ahead and sit down, I think we got it. How many of you found you're writing your name and you're going along good, but you look down at your circle and it's going analog, right? And how many people found that your circle was good, but you forgot how to write your name? That's because our brain, imagine the world right now if we had a tragedy that happened on Earth and half the computing power on the planet shut down. That's what just happened to you, and we're just playing a game. So what do you think happens to your patients or clients when they're under stress, when they come to see you? They don't come to see you because they're really happy and life's going great. I want to pay my copay. There's something going on. They're stressed out. So dealing with stress is the number one thing that most people forget because they think it comes in a pill or bottle or a potion. It comes in a thought, an activity, sometimes no activity, right? If they can do that. So as we think about it, our brain is wired. This body that I have, your body that you have, hasn't changed much in 200,000 years. Not at all. There's been no sign that we're evolving into anything other than what we were. So they don't know what's going on there physiologically. But in this time, this caveman would get his triggered response, this fight or flight response, maybe 5 times a week. Most of you got it before breakfast this morning, 5 times. Especially if you used an alarm that went, that's the worst thing you can do for your nervous system. Then you're like chasing heroin. You should put your favorite music on when you wake up. It should be a celebration. Today is a new day, man. What are you going to accomplish today? What lives are you going to change? How is life going to get better today than it was yesterday because you have yesterday to base it on? If you start looking optimistically, we know that your immune system works better. Every feature of your body works better when you have optimistic thinking. So look at life as a series of challenges, not threats. But when the threats come, Mike Tyson has a saying, everyone has a plan till you get hit. Every person in here is going to get hit. Your clients are going to get hit. It's how do you adapt? How do you improvise? How do you overcome? And that's not just a slogan for the Marines. And my great-great-grandfather was the one who founded the Marines, David Dixon Porter. So we know a lot about the Marines in our family. So we did a study. We said, bam, people said, wow, you're using light to have people go into a state like sleep? Well, the main reason is that the light channels of the brain, if you're triggering the cranial nerve 2, the brain doesn't go to sleep. If you try mindfulness and you close your eyes, 30% of your brain just shut down. We proved this in clinical science. It's not my belief, it's truth. That's why people can't meditate. And then they have their old stinking thinking in there. Their best thinking brought them to you. Congratulations, they need an upgrade. But they don't want to pay Bill Gates or, the other guys that they're producing this. So what we did is we said, how can we show people that you can train your brain? Non-evasive. The worst thing that can happen is you fall asleep and get a good nap. That's my disclaimer, not 4 pages of whatever might happen to you. All of your innards will stay intact. There's no negative side effects here. There's only positive things that can happen, or nothing. Those are the kind of remedies I like. There's a big upside there or no downside. So we went to Australia and we went to coal miners. These were coal miners that went to work in the dark. They worked in the dark. They left in the dark. They never saw the light of day. They had no circadian rhythm. You want to see a group of screwed up people? Go to Australia and look at coal miners. They all drank. In fact, they thought it was normal to bring alcohol in their lunchbox to work. Out of 50 people, we got 32 of them to agree to stop drinking during the study because you can't do anything with the brain with a couple drinks. Once you have 2 drinks, you guys know, you've been hijacked. You're not the same person. So we got them to agree. The others didn't come along. Hopefully they're doing better now. But every one of the people in the study never drank again after the study, just like my dad. Once they learned what the positive outcome was for drinking, it wasn't to get drunk. It wasn't to kill themselves. Like somebody talk about smoking, they go, you're going to kill yourself. That's never going to motivate anybody because that's not their underlying motivation. Their underlying motivation is to get normal or to get de-stressed, to think, whatever it is. We got to find out that underlying content. Well, with this group, we had them come imagine walking into the cave where you're going to go to work for the day. And we have our chairs lined up, zero gravity chairs, and they have to do a session. Well, half of them didn't do the headset. Half of them just did our app. At the end of 6 weeks, every person in the study was 70% better sleepers. And we did this with scintigraphy watches. So we tracked everything that they did. The group that used the helmet, in 3 weeks, they had a 70% improvement of neurological function during sleep, meaning they were sleeping better than most people on Earth. Because right now, if you look to your right and you look to your left, if you're not the one sleeping tonight, it's one of them, because only 1/3 of the world is sleeping And it doesn't have anything to do with time. Forget about it. Time doesn't matter. The military proved it only takes 4 hours to get adequate sleep, especially if you're 19 to 21 years old. You can get away. Most of you in college know how to do that. So in the process, what we need is an hour of deep sleep because the brain has to detox. If you do not get that hour of deep sleep, not all at one time, it happens in little spurts, then the glial lymphomic system never opens up, means you never detox the brain. That's the only time your brain detoxes. Now, how do you know it's happening? Most of you have had this experience. You woke up in the middle of the night, you couldn't move your body. You had sleep paralysis. Hopefully you didn't go run and tell your doctor about it and gave you some drug for it because it's normal. Think of Henry Ford. You got the line, you're making Model Ts, you got to clean the line. You're not going to have the workers keep working. You're going to send them to break and you're going to clean the line. That's what your brain does. Up to 2016, we didn't even know we had that, or at least the medical community. If you took physiology class, you knew we did, because in physiology, you were told anywhere there's a blood vessel, there's a lymph vessel. But for some reason, if you look at any book printed before 2015, you're not going to see the lymphatic system go above the neck. Now it's there, because it only turns on during level 4 sleep. That means all those toxins, and toxins come in the form of thoughts and foods and environment. It's not any one of those. And by the way, all of those play into your epigenetic expression. You are changing right now in this room every 40 seconds. Every genetic pair in your body is changing. You're not the same person that started this day. That's why the rishis say you can never step into the same river twice. You can never step into your body twice. You're different every time. Exposed to the communications you're having with people, the food you consume, the atmosphere that we're in. All of this plays a role. So all of this shows different things happening in the body. So I wanted to show, we did a dementia study. This is now a bigger study in Seminole College. We took women, 55, 65, all diagnosed by their medical doctor with dementia. We had them do only one thing 3 times a day, BrainTap. That's it. So simple. All they had to do is take 3 naps a day. 10 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, and they just fall asleep at night. At the end of the 6-week study, every person was taken off the dementia scale. Every person. They had an average of 39% neuroplastic change. 6 weeks later, they had a 42% neuroplastic change. What does that mean? It means energy. We live in an energy economy. People are coming to you because they go home, they sit on the couch, and they pass out. Then they rinse and repeat. And then pretty soon they get sick of doing that, and they go, what do? They need stimulants. They need some way to keep it rolling. So what we showed here, the reason it's a bigger study right now is that when you add in nutrition, some like niacin, if you're into mental health and you're not prescribing niacin to your people, you should read the big book again, because that's how Bill stopped drinking, not standing up in meetings and saying, I'm an alcoholic. He used niacin. Vitamin B, B3, B for brain. Think of all the B vitamins like that. So when you do that, that's going to blow out their capillaries. Blood flow is going to circulate. They're going to have that niacin flush. Now, start off real slow because it might scare them, but you'll see a big difference with people when they start taking niacin. It's very inexpensive too. You can buy a whole pack for like $3. It's not a very expensive. That's why it's not in the pharmaceutical index, because you can't make any money off it. It's so easy. But that's the one that I give to everybody that I see. Concussions. When we work with, one of the big reasons we're working with Tom Brady and TB12 is what we've done with concussions. We took a school in Gaylord, Michigan, and we took every student that got a concussion, from cheerleaders to football players. Every person was in the study from that school for a year. What we did was, at the end of their treatment, they all got treatment, the medical model. But at the end of their medical model treatment, one group did BrainTap. That's it. That's all they did. And they did it 3 times a week. Then they went back when they were told they could go back to play. We then put a year on the ticker. A year later, we went back and tested them. What we found was between 30 and 70% neurological improvement in the group that used BrainTap over the group that didn't. Because at the time of care is when you need neuroplasticity. You are stressing them out. Stress can either become something positive, because we're all here because of stress. We all went to school, got our degrees, went through the stressful moments of that, came out on the other end with our diploma or whatever. That was stressful. If we don't have stress, I always love when people go, I just prayed my stress would be gone. That's the wrong prayer. The prayer is the capacity to handle the stress. I love the t-shirt that says, God only gives you the amount of stress you can handle. I guess today he thinks I'm a badass. You know, that's the way you need to be thinking. You should be able to handle that stress. The problem is if you don't think there's an option, hope is the killer if you don't have anything to hope for. You know, we did a study with kids in Chicago, third-generation welfare families, and the biggest problem we had was their families, convincing them that they were never going to do better than they were doing. They took away all their hopes, all their dreams, before they even started. So I like to tell people there's only an infinite number of possibilities from any one moment in time. You know, you make the choices. I grew up in a two-bedroom house with 9 kids. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to see the Knights of Columbus show up with a basket of food and go celebrating. You know, I used to joke, I'd take good food to church because I knew it was coming back home. You know, I'd put it in the basket because, you know, that's the way it was working, you know. But in our family, once we started getting our brain around, the real problem was our thinking. Once you change your thinking, your whole life changes. You can do all you want physiologically, but if you don't change your thinking, you're going to just go right back. So all that's really important. So I told you I was going to show you that you are light. Every one of you has something on every cell of your body called a chromophore. Just like a plant that absorbs light energy and turns it into energy for them, ours makes something called ATP. Your mitochondria, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, is actually a bacteria that absorbs and transmits light. That's its whole job. So if you're not getting the right light, now the nice thing is today with science, we can fabricate the light. There are light that we can use like John Ott lights. So just know that that's what I'm talking about. Now, because most of you have never seen BrainTap, I'm going to give you a virtual tour. So when you put it on, your eyes are closed. That closed eyes are going to work through the closed eyelids. That blue light, the instrument of light doesn't even go past your eyelid. So it's not going to do much for you there. But what it does is it's going to use your primitive reflex, just like when you were our ancestors were laying in the cave and the light came in and told them to wake up. Except we're waking up the right side of the brain. We're waking up the left side of the brain. We're waking up the right side, the left side. There's something called binaural beats and isochronic tones, which I'm going to talk about. All of those things are working. What I did, the beauty of what we did at Light and Sound Research was we took light and did the same thing they were doing with sound, and we married the two. And we have an algorithm proven in science that can move anybody's brain, anybody's, unless you have something organically wrong. I've never met that person yet in all the world. And I even remember in India when Dr. Varun, who's at Ames Bhopal, he said to me, Dr. Porter, you're cheating. He says, people spend 30 years meditating. You're cheating. And I said, Varun, have you ever meditated to a candle? And he said, oh, yeah, all the time. I said, you're cheating. He goes, what do you mean? I said, that candle's flickering at 10 hertz frequency. That happens to be alpha. So if that candle's flickering anywhere in the room that you're in, your mirror neurons are tuning into the frequency of that candle and having you relax. That's why candles are relaxing. Not just because they're beautiful. Have you ever went to the ocean and said, wow, this ocean is beautiful, you know, sitting there relaxing? That's because a big body of water also resonates at 10 hertz frequency. In fact, if all of you got on a spaceship with me and we were to circle the Earth and point at it, we could measure the Earth's frequencies between 0.5 and 100. The only other thing that we know of on Earth that has the evoked potential of 0.5 to 100 is the human brain. Your brain is designed to be on this planet, mirroring the environments you're in, changing your epigenetics so you can be the best you in that moment, in that space, in that time. You're supposed to be here. That's the way it's designed. And your body is divinely designed in that way. So your DNA, when we're thinking here of who we are and what we are, everything you do, from the conversations you have, to the dreams you seek, to your nighttime ritual going to bed, is playing into how your body shows up the next day. If you've ever fallen asleep on the couch, which most of you had at some point or another, you're watching a military movie and all of a sudden you're in the movie in your dreams. You go, what are you doing? You don't want to be in the movie, but your subconscious, that's the last thing it heard, saw, and experienced. So it starts to play it out because your brain never goes to sleep. It's always trying to figure out what you're doing. And it's that time they call REM sleep, which you need 2 hours of. More is better, but 2 hours is good. That's when you start to take everything that you expose yourself to, from books you're reading, to conversations you're having, to food you're consuming. Your brain categorizes, organizes, and spatially identifies it in the brain. And when you go to get that memory, it's not one place in your brain. That's the problem. That's why under stress, we don't operate as well as we would if we were in a flow state or a relaxed state. Because one memory goes to 8 places in the brain at least, and then it reassembles itself. They call it the representational system. your brain reassembles it, and it's never the same twice, which means the past you believe is yours is not true. In fact, if you're in a big family like mine, I know that all my brothers and sisters have the wrong memories. I have the right ones, right? That's the way that it works. But it's all because now, if we have an emotionally charged event, we encode it differently than when we have just a neutral event. Emotionally charged events are usually stored in color with movement and sound. Now, if we store too many negative memories like that, we won't remember the positive ones. They become like fractures in time. And it has nothing to do with who was there. I tell people your past memories are like leftovers. You should treat them like that. If you ever had leftovers in the refrigerator and you let it, like me when I was single, and you go and open the refrigerator, something's smelling in there, but somebody's coming over, maybe mom's coming, so I'm going to clean out the refrigerator. I get to the back of the refrigerator, there's this green and fuzzy stuff in the back of the refrigerator. I take it out. I go, what do I do with it? I throw it away. I don't send it to CSI to talk about it. I don't ask them who I was eating with, who for God's sake ordered this stuff. Who to blame? Who should I put the blame on? No, I'm going to throw that away because the past doesn't matter. The past doesn't have to dictate your future. I'm proof of that. If you read, I've written 9 books. My first book called Awaken the Genius, I have a chapter in there how I was blessed to be the son of an alcoholic because I had to rewrite my past. Why would I want to say, poor me, my dad's an alcoholic? And both his parents were alcoholics. I mean, they were Iowa farmers. They didn't have a choice. I mean, that's a boring life. That's what you do. I'm sorry if somebody's from Iowa here, but that's what happens. So we have a few more slides here. This is one we did. We wanted to say with our doctors, because when we first were setting up our doctors, go, what do we do to tell our patients about this? I said, all you have to do is the same thing we do here. And I'm going to encourage every one of you during this 3 days, go get your nervous system scanned. We can scan your nervous system in less than 5 minutes. Then we can show you what happens when you do something, so you don't have to guess anymore. We can tell you if your physiology is locked or if it's not in 5 minutes. Well, this group, we took 100 people. They were 45 to 65 years old, never meditated. We want to make sure we weren't getting meditators because then that would skew the results. And what we found out was during the session, that one session, their stress levels went down 38.5%. The nice thing about this study was we continued to follow them. 1 month after that, as long as they did 3 sessions a week, every 72 hours, your nervous system is going to try to reevaluate. It's going to try to reestablish itself back to what it was, however long ago. So you have to do something all the time. That's why when you go to work out, people go, if I could just get in the habit of working out. Well, that really doesn't have anything to do with it. It's basically your brain starts predicting your activities. So you start anticipating going to the gym. And when you don't get it, you get a letdown effect. So you want to go and things like that. So what they found out was they started rolling out of bed with this much less stress. And it's something that is very affordable. Our solution is the most researched product under $1,000 on earth. Because like I said, right now, we have so many universities using it. Duke University, we have a program called Healthy Duke. We have high schools using it in elementaries. Few more slides to share with you about what's happening. Now, music, a lot of people, how many people have used music therapy before? It's really powerful, right? So what we did is we know music therapy is really powerful. They've done a lot of research. They call it the Mozart effect. All we have to do is play Mozart music in this room, and you are smarter. We know that. But what we also proved in the lab was when you turn the music off, you go back to your own old self. No change, zero. What we did is we did an experiment with over 1,000 college students. We had them listen to that same music. We had a 5-minute washout. Then we had them listen to that same music with BrainTap. When they did the BrainTap music, which means the same music, but just with my encoding in it, it took 72 hours for the nervous system to regulate back to their stressed out self because we trained the brain using the way the brain learns, light, sound, and vibration. We're all here because our ancestors had the capacity to evaluate light, sound, and vibration. You can call it a tiger, you can call it a cliff, you can call it whatever, but we're here because they made it. Music plays a big role. Binaural beats work like this, for those who've never heard it. If I put a 305 hertz frequency in one ear and a 295 hertz frequency in the other, your brain doesn't hear either of these frequencies. Your brain hears a phantom sound between them. Now, the scary thing that I want you to realize is you're always doing that. How many people have walked into the kitchen and said, where's the salt shaker? And your spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend says, it's right there on the counter. You go, no, it isn't. And you argue with them, and then finally they get tired. They come out and they show you it's right there in front of you. In psychology, we call that a sticktoma, right? Because the twig in your eye, you can't see the sun of another. Well, that's where they got it from. But what that is we didn't render it. Neuroscience says we render 80% of our reality. It's happening way too fast. So we make it up. We make it up based on our beliefs and convictions. So these kind of tones do this. Now, because everyone can't basically create and experience the binaural beats, because if you have 90% hearing in one ear and 80% in the other, you're not going to use binaural beats that well. We know that. So what we did was we married them with isochronic tones. This is a frequency that's happening right now in this room without us knowing it. There's something called the Schumann frequency. Most people have heard of that. That's 7.8 hertz frequency. That happens to be the tree line frequency or the earth frequency. And people just feel good when they're in it because it's creating theta. Theta produces, each of these brainwaves also triggers neurotransmitters. It produces GABA. When people are talking about psilocybin and other things, this produces GABA is the precursor to DMT. All these things are made in our own brain. When I did the PTSD study in Dallas, Texas, with Dr. Rosenthal, we had a group of the vets that did not want to do the psilocybin. I had never done psilocybin, so I didn't want to force them to do it. But what we did was we brain mapped people on psilocybin, and we found out that they had a high degree of gamma brainwave activity in a region of the brain right here that lit up on every person. Place in the brain where you actually basically get spiritual experiences. So I said, I'll make those. So we have 40 sessions that do that digitally. And people were having a psilocybin trips without a psilocybin. Because it's not what you put into your body, it's the reaction of those things to your body. Your body has the capacity to do it. So I'm just going to wrap it up here. I just got one other thing I want to, I guess you're going to have to, if you want the PowerPoint, I'll get it to you. I'm sorry, we get running a little bit behind, but I'm going to be here today. I'll be at my booth if you have any other questions. And they're going to be here all week, the 3 days. So please get scanned and try out BrainTap. My joy is to see you improve your own brain and then pass that on to your clients and patients and help me better 1 billion brains. Thank you.